What is up, guys? Joe from JS Bladecraft. I have been waiting to unveil this knife for a long time, ever since I got back from Blade Show. Now, let me tell you a little story about this Condor, which I might have told you before. I know Donnie has told you this story before. Obviously, we're doing a lot of walking around in Blade Show, visiting companies. I wanted to really visit Condor because I haven't had any experience with Condor before. And they make such great machetes. I know Joe Flowers is involved with them, a lot of great designers and all that, which I'll get to that. So visited Condor, and I met up with this gentleman, Walter Matthews. He's a designer with Condor. He's a war vet, war hero. I mean, he's got a big resume of survival tactics and survival training. I mean, he's just a dynamite, fantastic class act of a dude, Walter. Started speaking to him, getting into the Condor, and he started showing me some of his knives. So I figured, let's do it. You know, we did like an interview, that type of thing. Donnie showed up. He started basically getting into the interview, seeing some of his knives. But basically, I just introduced me to Condor, introduced me to their knives. I just fell in love with their stuff. And this particular knife, among others, this is the black leaf knife. Designer is Julio Diez. Julio Diez, Mr. Diaz, you hit this out of the park. You did a great freaking job with this knife. The first time I and it wasn't in the sheath yet, it was kind of bare bones, the knife itself. The first time I kind of held this thing in my hand, I was like, wow, this thing is freaking awesome. Melts into the hand in terms of the design. Again, not coming as a knife designer, as a user, but you notice basically the handle. This designer had everyone in mind in terms of making up the handle. I have so much respect for a designer that puts forefront, even over the knife and everything itself, is the comfort of the grip to the user, to be able to hold this in so many different ways and be completely comfortable and have so much purchase on here for even a much larger hands. I have large hands and this is so comfortable. I can my fingers can they're not crunched together. I can take a couple different, a wide grip, a tighter grip. You have a finger choil here, which I feel like is a little bit far away, but you can make it work because you got the jimping that starts here and it ends there. It doesn't continue. So when you use the finger choil, you don't have much of a jimping there, but it's really not a problem, guys. I really love it. But I found myself using this thing in many different positions in terms of holding it in the hand. And in every single position I put this in my hand, it felt comfortable. I felt control. And the beauty about this thing is the fact I'm going to get into the specs, but it's got, the thickness of the spine is about 3 millimeters, about 0.12 inches. It's not very, very, very thick, but thick enough where it's still a tough knife. But I had concerns of it, maybe it's just more of a slicer. It's not really a banger or anything like that. Can't really bang into wood or the baton with it or anything like that. But guys, at this point of airing this video, I did all my testing with it already. I batoned with it. I was banging this into wood. This thing is freaking tough. 1095 steel, which it's a 1095 hard carbon steel that they use, which I have so much respect in the world. Coming to me from a katana guy, I love 1095 steel, and I love it on knives especially. It's such a great steel. Great edge retention, great strength and durability, and it just handled everything well. Despite it not being a very, very thick spine, this thing is freaking tough, guys, and you'll see it when I did the testing. I was so impressed with how versatile this particular knife is. Let's take a look at what their website had to say about this knife. So they says this black leaf knife was designed to create like a hybrid tactical and field knife that reflects the best of both worlds. This is a knife that can perform field and basic survival tasks while its balance, lightness, agility, and multi-grip handle configuration lend themselves to combat use. The Mercator handle and forward guard lock the hand in securely in both forward and reverse grip, while the choil allows for close, in-detail work for bushcrafting and carving tasks. This knife, they say, is great for combat, camping, skinning game, and basic bushcraft tasks in the field. It's all true, guys. Everything they're saying about this knife is true. This can be a great bushcrafting knife, many different hand positions to use it. to be able to use it in different type of cutting scenarios for bushcrafting, survival, setting up camp. But it also is light enough and agile enough, guys, where it can be used as a survival knife or a self-defense knife or a combat knife. I can definitely see that, okay, with also this really extensive guard over here. It's just really, really absolutely fantastic. It's everything they say it is and so much more. Totally agree with their assessment on their website, because it's everything that is, guys. This is an all-around knife for so many different things. Guys, I said this before and I'll say it again. It is so nice to be able to review a good quality knife from a good company on my channel. Now, looking just right off the bat at how you carry this thing, the sheath, the Kydex is very good quality, locks the knife into place, no movement, easy in and out of the sheath. High quality leather belt holder, really good quality smelling leather. I love it. It's just, it stays firm in place. It's a very comfortable carry at the hip, and that's exactly what you need. You know, that's what you're looking for when you're looking at a good quality knife. Now, I think I proved the fact that these types of tests definitely make a difference depending on the knife that you're using these tests for. So these are just basically 4-foot downward drops invented by Donnie B all day. And then we're going to do some harder downward throws of the knife into the stump. Now, why do we do this? Like I said, you're testing the tip. You're testing how reinforced and how good the tip is if you're not going to have any tip bending. If you have tip bending, then you know there's an issue. You know there's an issue with the steel. You know maybe there's an issue with the heat tempering. Maybe the steel is not what it's supposed to be. There could be a whole slew of problems. So when you're doing these tests and you don't find any damage, you don't find any rolling, any bending of the tips, any breaking of the tips, or anything whatsoever, you know that it was made of good quality. It's a good quality knife, and that's why we do these tests. So now you're going to see here, looking at the knife, inspecting it after doing some hard downward throws, you're going to see there's absolutely no bending. You could see also the beauty of the tip being, you can see it's very, very clearly reinforced. It's a reinforced steel tip, and you see it's actually almost like a convex edge on that tip. It's absolutely beautiful. Really nice edge on this knife. Just enough steel, just enough thickness to make it give you the quality and the toughness that you need to do the type of test you need to do with this type of versatile knife. So no damage whatsoever from this test, which is always a welcome thing to see from a quality knife, guys. The initial sharpness is what I try to start with pretty much all my tests, just to give you a little idea of out of the box how sharp it is. Now, I would say it's pretty much just about razor sharp. It came really, really sharp out of the box. The only thing I did was maybe just run it through a leather strop, a couple of passes, which I pretty much do with all my knives right out of the box. But no honing, no reprofiling, no sharpening whatsoever. It came very slice. It's a slicing sharp knife, guys. It's got the edge profile, the flat grind with the convex edge, the thin spines to promote for a very, very good slicey, dicey type of freaking knife. Did some rope, and this is some polyurethane camp rope. Really no freaking problem. And the beauty of this is you'll see the test afterwards. After I do a lot of vigorous cutting with it in terms of wood and batoning, I'm going to revisit this test to see basically how the edge retention holds up. Now here you're going to see some 3-ply copper electric cable cordage, and I just tried to do kind of like a push cut to see how the edge holds up. And again, just to put pressure on the edge, and really just like it wasn't even there, guys. It kind of pushed down, really no problem. No problems to the edges as well, because I was checking the edge throughout the entire test. And I even did a pull cut with that copper cordage, and it with a little work, it definitely got through it. But it just very, very impressed with the slicing capability of this knife. All right, so next up is the water hose. I love doing the water hose test because I see a difference between a knife that is just basically one that's a really good slicer. It depends how much work is needed to get to, how much effort is needed to kind of push the knife through the rubber on the water hose. So depending on how fast it gets done, and this is instantaneous, it goes to show me how slicey dicey or how sharp and capable the edge is. And this really instantaneously just cuts it. And it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, depending on the knife that I use, it doesn't always get through it very easily, and it always, sometimes there's a lot of stress that I need to put on the knife and my wrist in order to get through it quick. So there is a difference when you have a knife that can handle it a lot better, like this does. I tried to do many different types of cutting with this knife, guys. So here I'm just kind of just skinning or debarking a branch. It's actually a fresh branch, debarking it, and just look at that thing go, guys. I mean, it's a very good edge profile for slicing and doing things like this. So now if you want to debark a tree and you want to make up some pole stakes, or you want to make up a spear or something for self-defense, or whatever, if you just want to kind of just mess around and just start cutting things up with your knife when you get out of boredom, this is a knife. This is a knife that you would need. This is a knife that would handle those tasks. And what I would notice also, you see that little piece of log that's sticking out there. If you want to kind of cut that off to kind of make it completely straight, it can be a knife that you can bang into the wood. The edge is going to hold up. The spine is thick enough. It's a strong enough knife where you can be a little aggressive with this. And like I said, I tried not to hold back, not abusing it, but trying to exercise the capability of the knife to see how much you could get away with, even though you don't have a very thick spine. And there you go. Continuing with the basically taking the bark, debarking this tree branch. What I'm also testing here is how comfortable is the knife in my hand. You're going to see I'm going to be taking a couple different grips throughout doing all the cutting, and at all times it stayed light, it stayed nimble. I felt like I had control, and there was no hot spots. Great fit and finish with giving you no hot spots, and it just handled everything well. It's a slicing, cutting machine, guys. Look at it go. It's fantastic. I was very, very impressed with how comfortable it stayed in my hand. Very, very few times did I ever get a knife that it stayed comfortable in the hand throughout the entire cutting session. It may start that way, and then you might find some spots where you find a little soreness in the hand. This felt comfortable throughout the entire time because there's so much purchase on the handle and so many different ways you could hold it if you want to change it around, if you do get tired in a certain way. And got a great edge for cutting, promotes for a great cutting edge. It's strong, it's versatile, it's light, and it works. It just freaking works. Man, oh man, a knife that I kind of put in my hand because it's so light with a thinner type of spine that I thought could be maybe more of a slicer and a cutter type of thing, and you can't really bang the knife around. This is definitely a banger. You can definitely bang this knife around. It's got the steel that can hold it up. It's got the great edge retention the Condor is giving you, apparently, as far as what I'm seeing here using this knife. And you can definitely bang the crap out of this. It's not a chopper, but if you need to basically process some wood and do something like this where you need to kind of be a little more aggressive with the knife, you can definitely do it, and it's going to hold up. I was very impressed that I was able to add this into my test. You gotta love how much fun it is batoning with a knife that is capable of batoning. I didn't think I was gonna able to do a lot of batoning with this knife. I mean, honestly, this knife really surprised me. And from holding it in hand and feeling how light it was, I felt like I wasn't able to do everything that I was able to do on this test. But kind of pushing it, and rightfully so, it handled it. I felt like the knife was strong, and the knife handled it. It just, going back to some rear slicing there. Again, the edge is holding up, but it handled batoning great. Again, inspecting the edge itself, no micro chips or anything like that. Nothing that would alarm you to say that this was pushed a little too far. This could handle everything that I threw at it and so much more. It's such a well-rounded knife. Probably did about an hour straight of slicing and dicing wood with this particular knife. Now this is interesting. I took a little bit of a reverse grip on this knife to see how it would feel kind of just in that reverse type of grip, and it felt great. I mean, it was bringing up curls. No matter how I held this knife, whether it be this reverse grip, which I've never done before on any other knife, or the traditional front grip, or a tighter grip holding the finger choil and the jimping and all that, it just felt comfortable, and it felt like it's at every different grip. It felt like, oh, you know, hey, this works like this. This knife actually works even better doing it this way. So it just, I was very it was very comfortable, just no matter which way I held this knife throughout the entire testing. Well, if it's a bushcrafting knife, does it have a 90-degree spine to make sparks? Yeah, wise ass. It has a 90-degree spine, and you can definitely make sparks with this thing, and with a ferro rod, and make your little fires. Overall, the size of the knife is great. I love the geometric of the blade, the length of the blade, the handle, the steel that they use. Here I'm just doing also some testing after all that cutting to see how sharp the edge still is, and it's still super sharp. I mean, the edge retention held up so incredibly well. This is interesting. I love doing cutting fat wood up or lighter knot this type of way. I think it's just a very efficient, also very safe way of doing it, and just makes up some really nice curls. And if you got a good knife with a good sharp edge, you're going to get this type of effect from it, and it handled this lighter knot extremely well. There's nothing like a beautiful fresh piece of lighter knot. I mean, look at how delicious that looks. You can smell it right through the lens, I'm sure. Absolutely great. And kind of just finished up the job, cleaned up the fat wood there. And then the interesting also thing that I did throughout the entire testing is also check that edge. Constantly check the edge for any chips or rolls or any bends or anything like that. And I didn't see nothing. This thing handled everything extremely well. I did a lot of cutting with this thing, guys. And the most important thing that I realized when I'm using this knife towards the end, I noticed that as I learned how to hold the knife, because every knife is an individual knife, so you have to kind of get used to the knife. I felt like even cutting here, I was getting better curls. I had better control of the knife after using it for a little while and getting accustomed to the contours of the knife and the handle and the blade. You kind of learn how to use it, and the more practice you have with your knives, the better you're going to get at every particular knife. So there is your black leaf from Condor. Great job, Diaz, with this design, man. The stock of this item is a CTK 2847. The actual blade is about 5.41 inches. The overall length of this knife is 10.39 inches. Like I said, the thickness is about 0.12 inches or 3 millimeters. The weight is a very manageable 11.29 ounces, very light, distributed extremely well. It's such a balanced knife in terms of how it's distributed. I think it's actually toward the middle of the handle where it's actually balanced. And since it's such a large handle, you have so much control. I felt like I had control of the tip at all times in all the cutting I did. The finish is a Condor Classic. It's that Condor Classic, that like apocalyptic type of blackened top here, and see how the grinding lines go up and down perfectly fine. It's just, that's a Condor Classic grind from what I understand, and I'm really digging it. I love the freaking look of the grind that he's this Condor Classic. I really do. It's obviously it's a flat grind knife with a secondary bevel. The type of knife is obviously fixed blade. It's a beautiful, very smooth, very grippy micarta handle. The sheath is a Kydex sheath with a leather belt loop, really good quality leather belt loop, like I showed you in the video there. Listen, if there's any proof in the last knife review that I put out, okay, which you can look at my catalog, it was, I won't say the name, Ned Floss. So you could see how doing the same test on two different knives, how you get a different result, okay, when you have a quality knife like this, a quality make, quality design from Julio Diez. I can't speak enough how excellent this thing was designed and so freaking multi-purpose driven. This is on their website for $110, specifically 109.98. Rounded off, $110 for this thing. Such a great quality all around knife for $110. But listen, besides the price, besides the fact that I love this knife so much and I loved using it, I threw everything at this, man. As you saw, it was comfortable. It felt so, it was one of the best knives I've ever used for processing wood and everything I did with it. It was just such a great freaking slicer. But besides that, just meeting the folks at Condor at Blade Show, meeting Walter Matthews, meeting all the sales guys and everybody that was there for the hookups they gave us at the show with these knives for review on our channel. So appreciated. But just meeting some of the designers there, including Joe Flowers that we had on Blade Talk with Scab and Joe. You got to catch that interview with Joe Flowers. He's just a phenomenal guy, most interesting man in the world for shit sure. But Walter Matthews at the show, Joe Flowers, Julio Diez, just meeting these designers and meeting the folks, the guys and gals at Condor is just, they impress me. They impress me in terms of the pride they take in their company, the pride they take in their product, and the pride they take in their designs and what they do. So this won't be the last Condor that I review. I know I do have one coming up from Joe Flowers, which is the Moonshiner, which I'm so super stoked about that. But this was fantastic. This is going to have a lot of long-term use for me. And some of more Walter's designs, some of more Julio's designs, and also Joe Flowers with his machetes. It's just looking forward to just a long history of stuff that I'm going to be looking to do with Condor. Also coming up on the channel, guys, I have a new katana company that I'm going to be reviewing. They just sent me a sample. I'm going to do a first impressions open boxing. I didn't unwrap it yet, so I'm going to do that. That's going to be coming to my channel on a separate video. And also, if I can contain myself, I have an incredible knife for a sample on my channel from Tops coming in today. If I can, I'll try to put it out today. If not, it'll go out tomorrow. But that is going to be an amazing signature chopper from Tops. Looking forward to showing you that. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe so you can see more of my videos coming up. This is the Black Leaf knife designed from Julio Diez, made and produced from Condor. Fantastic knife. So I'll see you when I see you guys. Peace, love, and respect. Ciao.